Chomsky 2024? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
The first time ever any...
What are you people?
We're Americans.
We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. This is Middle America. This is episode 3. I have been under the weather, as you guys have noticed, or maybe you have not noticed, but that's the reason your brother hasn't been around. Dear listener, I used to start off by saying we're not left wing, we're not right wing, we're just right. The original thought in Middle America was we are going to do something different. We're going to take the middle road between left wing and right wing. That was our initial goal with the channel. But since our rights of speaking and dissenting with our government have been compromised, actually, Rich, you're the first. Since our ability to speak and etc. has been compromised, I've begun to see that the dichotomy really is not left versus right, conservative versus liberal, or whatever it is. The issue is authoritarianism versus freedom. And that is the long and the short of it. This is about authoritarianism versus freedom. Now, recently, and that's one of the reasons why, guys, I have this call in if you disagree. Anybody who, what's up, Pirate Alex? Anybody can call in and disagree with your boy, because this is not just about me lecturing you on what you should or shouldn't believe. Kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, so there you go. So what we've got is Noam Chomsky just made a statement about Trump. Very, very, very controversial. But let's see. He's seeing it through the lens of experience, and Trump is the only one speaking of ending hostilities, etc., etc. Okay. Here we go. Here is Noam Chomsky. Noam Chomsky talking about Trump. And look, this is going to be one of those situations where it's like, holy smokes, what did I just see? Because, I mean, when I first saw it, I was like, no, come on, no way. There's no way Noam Chomsky said that. I had to hear that from the man himself, and it just so happens that we actually have a clip where Noam Chomsky actually makes that statement. So I'm gonna play it for you guys, and then we're gonna talk about it, because I can see, you know, we'll see if all the weeping and gnashing of teeth, all the hype that these people have put around this quote from Noam Chomsky actually deserves all the weeping and gnashing of teeth, or if it's just people being crazy. Obviously, we can't come to a conclusion on the topic until we actually let the man speak for himself, which is what I intend to do. And we always do this at this show, because that's how we get down. So here we go, guys. Noam Chomsky talking about our former president. This should be very interesting. Let's check it out.
Journalist Glenn Greenwald highlighted a recent interview with Professor Noam Chomsky where he touches on the Russia-Ukraine.
Glenn Greenwald, I was informed earlier today, is a right winger and a Russian asset, apparently. Just so you know. All right, here we go.
More. Let's watch.
Well, there is fortunately one statesman in the United States and Europe who has laid out, a person of a high political figure who has made a very sensible statement about how you can solve the crisis, namely by facilitating negotiations instead of undermining them, and moving towards establishing some kind of accommodation in Europe, maybe in which there are no military alliances, but just mutual accommodation. He didn't say it, but it's something like what George H.W. Bush, the first Bush, not the second, proposed in the early 90s after the collapse of the Soviet Union, proposed what they called a partnership for peace, which would be open for Europeans generally, Eurasians as well. It wouldn't eliminate NATO, but he would live up to the promise that NATO would not expand to the east, firm promise to Gorbachev, keep to that, allow NATO there, but kind of de-emphasize it so other countries could join, including Russia for that matter, join the Partnership for Peace.
Imagine that. Instead of a military alliance, how about we have a Partnership for Peace alliance and invite the Russians?
Tajikistan joined, for example, not NATO, and move towards a world, a Europe, Eurasia with no military alliances. Actually, de Gaulle had similar vision.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Alan. were you going to say that Noam was a reincarnation of that? Of
Macron, in his initiatives trying to contact Putin, suggested something similar. So going back to the one Western statesman, he didn't mention all of this, but he suggested something similar. Move towards negotiations and diplomacy instead of escalating the war. Try to see if he can bring about an accommodation, which would be roughly along these lines. His name is Donald J. Trump.
Chomsky said later in the interview that he believes former President Trump is a, quote, deeply dangerous figure.
Of course he has to say Trump is a dangerous figure. But it doesn't matter, Noam. All your loyal left-wing acolytes are gonna turn on you because you said something nice about Mr. Trump. Dear listener, I don't really think that this is a glowing endorsement of Donald Trump. I just think that this just demonstrates how absolutely insane it is what is happening on the world stage, where Donald Trump is the voice. No disrespect if you're a Trump voter, all the rest of it. I have no disrespect and animosity towards you. But being a peacemaker has never been in Trump's arsenal as far as campaigning on it. He's never campaigned as, manufacturing consent is Noam Chomsky's, greatest contribution, I think. You hear the term manufacturing consent all the time. That was Chomsky. Chomsky coined that term, I'm pretty sure. But you see what a crazy world we're in, where Trump is the lone voice of peace and reason. Again, I'm not trying to insult him. If you're a Trump supporter, I'm not trying to insult you, I promise you. But Donald Trump is now the voice of reason, according to Noam Chomsky, the voice of peace, the voice of de-escalating conflict. Yeah. And instead of us saying, well, let's see if Noam is right, you got all these people going after it. Now here's Amy Lee. Trump's solution is mine is bigger, so be afraid. It's true. That is Trump's solution. And I don't think we have an invasion of Ukraine if Trump is the president. I really don't. When you look at the way that these folks are interfacing with Putin and Russia and all the rest of it, it's unbelievable. It's like we're building an airplane in midair. Guys, this is not some earth-shattering this isn't some earth-shattering revelation from Noam Chomsky or Trump. Guys, this is the only logical solution to this conflict, is to make a peace negotiation, and we all know that's how it's going to end. Because we know that the Russians are kicking the living shit out of the Ukrainians, and it doesn't matter how many billions we send them, that those cannot buy new human beings. These people are getting massacred in mass. You've got entire detachments of Marines, which are their elite fighting force over there, that are entire groups of Marines are surrendering by the thousands to the Russians. There's no way the Ukrainians can win this conflict. The longer this conflict goes, the more Ukrainian civilians are going to die. What we're looking at here, guys, is absolute and complete madness on the part of the world, the Western world. literally what we're doing is we're using these Ukrainian bodies to bleed out Russia, get them bogged down in some sort of Vietnam, Afghanistan style, money pit destruction, and ruin them for the next 20 years. The price tag is not $33 billion. It's gallons and gallons of Ukrainian people, of their blood, by the gallons. I don't know if you guys are on the Telegram app, but the Telegram app is horrible because, I've called it war porn or whatever, but these people are getting massacred. I'm talking about the soldiers. They're getting destroyed. And it is so, I don't think we realize how absolutely inhumane and cruel our government is, knowing full well that there is no way these Ukrainians can win. How cruel it is that we are consistently undermining peace negotiations over and over again and sending more and more war money and more training, more vehicles, etc., to prolong this war, because our government knows that there are psychotic factions within their government, namely the SBU, who will literally fight to the last Ukrainian, literally will fight to the death because they're ideologues. And we know that. And it's even more insidious to me because we also know that I believe that Zielinski doesn't want any part of this crazy stuff. But I think he's being threatened. We covered this last week when Zielinski initially went to Donbass and told them, put down your weapons, stop killing these people. They laughed at him. And then later in an interview, they said, if he ever worked with the Russians and collaborated them, we would execute him and hang him in the middle of the town square. They said that in broad daylight. So I don't think we realize how absolutely cruel our government is to these poor people. These people are getting wrecked in our government because we want to play chess. We want to play Game of Thrones with these people's lives. We're just constantly sending them all money so these guys can get bogged down in a crazy proxy war that they cannot win. Our government is so evil right now. Our government is so horrible that we're completely fine with these women getting violated, with these people being murdered, these people being killed in dozens and in droves. We're completely fine with it as long as it degrades Russia's power profile in the world. If we're continuously supporting more arms supplies to Ukraine, that is what we are supporting. Do I think Zelensky's being blackmailed? I absolutely believe that Zelensky's being blackmailed. Zielinski ran on a peace platform. He was elected to bring those people peace. He was talking about even having the Russian language. I'm gonna show you guys a video of of Zielinski talking about we can't outlaw the Russian language. We can't. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna try to find. I'm going to try to find that video because it's really fascinating when you watch what Zielinski has been saying. Zielinski has not been going after these people the way that other people think he has. I think Zielinski is actually really trying his damnedest to get us out of this situation. But I think it's our own government actually are putting Zielinski in a situation where he has no choice but to continue this ridiculous incursion or whatever. That's what I think is happening. And I will try to get you guys the proof if I can get into my own Twitter profile, for God's sake, because I've actually got a video where Zielinski's actually on record saying all this stuff. So yeah, I believe that Zielinski is completely compromised, and I think it's the Nazis in his party, in the SBU, that are attached to him, that are threatening him, that are making peace impossible for him. And I believe we know that, and we're saying too bad. We want these Nazis to be armed because then we can continue to to terrorize that region. Look what Zielinski said recently. This is why I believe that Zielinski is compromised, that this is not coming from him. Check this out.
И в Крыму люди хотят говорить по-русски. Отцепитесь, отстаньте от них. На законном основании дайте им возможность говорить по-русски.
Notice he's saying these guys want to speak Russian. Let them speak Russian, because remember, right after the Maidan revolution that we took part in, I'm not going to say we instigated it, but we definitely took part in it and nursed it and gave it direction. One of the first initiatives after that was to de-Russify Ukraine. And so they outlawed the Russian language. And he's saying, give them the right to speak. Let them speak Russian.
Язык никогда не будет делить нашу родную страну. У меня еврейская кровь, я говорю по-русски, но я гражданин Украины. Я люблю эту страну. И не хочу быть частью другой страны.
He's saying, okay, you guys didn't see that part. He says, I have Jewish heritage. Okay? I've got Jewish heritage. And I'm in Ukraine and I love my country. Language should never divide our country. And I'm Jewish and I'm a citizen of Ukraine, he's saying.
Украина, мы действительно братские народы. Я знаю миллионы, я знаю тысячи людей, которые живут в России, замечательные люди. Мы одного цвета, у нас одинаковая кровь. Мы все друг друга понимаем, независимо от языка.
He's saying we're one country, yada, 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 yada. Okay? So my point is, it's clear to me that he's like, man, these guys want to speak, let them speak. Why do we have to be so divisive? Yada, yada, yada. We're all friends. Those people in Crimea, let them alone. Let them be who they want to be. That's Zielinski's position. I believe there's people around Zielinski who are saying, nah, bro, nah. It's a complete total war with Russia. We're gonna reunify the white race. We're gonna bring Ukraine into the West. Yada 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 yada. So that's what I believe. Here's Glenn. I believe the Ukrainian people could beat Russia. Didn't get me wrong. There'll be great cost. But Vin, can you name a modern military invasion that was successful against a guerrilla war? Glenn, it depends on what you define as winning. What do you define as beating? We went into Iraq, we invaded Iraq, and within 3 weeks we had completely overthrown their government. And then we set up another government that lasted until we destabilized Syria, and then we stood up ISIS. So we completely went in there and took over Iraq and did whatever we wanted in Iraq. We did the same thing in Afghanistan. Now, if your goal is to take over the country and occupy the country forever, then you can occupy the country forever. You're just going to have attrition every year. But let's not get this confused. The Iraqi military didn't beat us. And the Taliban didn't beat us. We went in and cleared out the Taliban, and again, in 2 or 3 weeks in Afghanistan. The issue is, are you trying to hold the place? Are you trying to occupy the territory? That's the problem. And for years in Afghanistan, the KIA didn't even reach 100. I mean, look at the overall KIA in Afghanistan since 2012. We lost people to traffic accidents 5 or 6 times more in America than people were dying in Afghanistan. So no, I completely disagree with you. It's not like every time there's the guerrillas always win. That's completely untrue. And again, you have to define what winning is. What is winning? A bunch of Ukrainians getting massacred to the point where the Russians get bored. Remember, the Russians never said we're going to go in there and occupy and take over Ukraine. They never said that. They had specific objectives. Their objectives were neutralize NATO, give us Crimea, liberate the Donbass. Those are their demands. So no, I don't believe that the Ukrainians are going to be able to beat the Russians. They're going to die in droves, and the people are going to be more and more fatigued and exhausted with this thing. And eventually, the public tide is going to turn, if it hasn't turned already, toward people saying, let's just make a peace deal with these people and get on with our lives. So no, I don't believe that the Ukrainians are going to be able to ever stand up to the Russians or beat the Russians, because the Russians are not trying to occupy Ukraine. That's not what they said. They have no interest in occupying Ukraine. So yeah, they can kill enough people to where the rest of the Ukrainian citizenry says, okay, we've had enough of this, make the deal. To me, all reasonable demands. Yeah, all these demands are reasonable. None of them are crazy. That's the other reason I believe that people are going to make this deal. These are not crazy demands. They're rational demands, and they make a lot of sense. Okay, and if our country truly wanted what was best for the Ukrainians, we would have had this deal made yesterday. We'd have had this deal made a month ago. But unfortunately, I just want us to realize our country does not care that we're using these people as human meat shields to go and drain one of our state adversaries of power. That's all that is happening right now. That and the Nord Stream 2 pipeline stuff. So I think most Americans are going to say, wait a second, what's going on here? Another $30 billion to these people. For what? To lose? It was the American government's mission to bring democracy to Iraq and Afghanistan. Do you believe they were successful? Well, no, Glenn, it was not our mission to bring democracy to Afghanistan and Iraq. And we didn't even say that initially. Initially, we invaded Afghanistan because Mullah Omar wouldn't give up Osama bin Laden, radiyallahu anhu. And we went into Iraq because weapons of mass destruction. So if we were there, Glenn, to occupy the poppy fields for 20 years and make billions of dollars in that trade, then the mission was successful. If we were in Iraq to intercept some of their oil resources, then we were successful. We never said we were going there to permanently occupy Afghanistan. We never said we were going to permanently occupy Iraq. We never said that. So, again, it just depends. If you're talking about winning and losing, you just have to define what winning and losing is for both sides. Winning for the Russians means you commit to neutralization, Donbass and Crimea. That's what winning looks like for Russia. And if you're asking me, do the Russians have enough resolve to just keep killing Ukrainian soldiers until the Ukrainian people buckle? Yes. They do, and they will, because having a war of occupation is vastly different from having very specified goals and objectives. Those are not the same thing. Okay, so my point is, look, I'm not going to attach any moral significance necessarily to this current conflict. As far as if you support this, you're a horrible Nazi supporter, yada, yada. I just want you to be informed that the longer every day that this war goes on, it benefits America and it harms Ukraine and it slows down Russia's progress. We're not really hurting Russia. You see what the ruble's doing. The ruble is bouncing back. They're demanding gas payments in rubles, etc., etc. Okay? So they're not going to be completely hamstrung by our sanctions and all the rest of it. So if we're supporting this war, the more you cheer as Biden sends more billions, all those billions are buying us more dead Ukrainians. That's what the billions are buying. The billions of dollars that we're sending is simply buying a bunch of dead Ukrainians. That's all it's buying. But it's keeping the Russians stymied in this big giant war and money pit that they will continue to burn money for as long as you have Ukrainian soldiers who are still willing to fight for the cause. Okay, that's all that's happening. That's the truth. That's the truth. As Howie said, thanks to these sanctions, all we have now is muscle. Correct. All we have now is muscle. Because that's what happens when, instead of negotiating, you're supposed to start soft. They teach you in interrogations. You're supposed to start soft and then escalate as time goes on. You kind of lull people to sleep. But what we did was we immediately went to DEFCON 3 on these people. We initiated insane sanctions, which then turned the Russian people closer to Putin than they were before. Ukrainians are not just accepting anyone now to fight for them. Only those who have some international conflict, only well-trained foreigners. Yeah. Europe is committing suicide, supported by the U.S. Yeah, I mean, it's over. It's over for Europe. Europe is now a vassal continent of the Americas. We are going to come out really, really good out of the back end of this situation in 5 to 10 years. The ramifications of the European vassalship to the United States and the degradation of the Russian economy and all the rest of it is going to benefit us exponentially in a couple years. It just so happens that we spilled a lot of innocent blood to get there. And the worst irony is that these people are brothers, the Ukrainians and the Russians. They're brothers. And here we are. Here we are. Stoking this kind of discord that is resulting in the death of a lot of beautiful people created in the image of God. But here we are. So there's Noam Chomsky, people going crazy on brother Noam because he spoke the truth. Trump is not the solution, dear listener. He's not the ultimate problem either, though. See, that's the thing. If Trump were the ultimate problem, then getting rid of him would be the ultimate solution. But here we are. Kids still in cages. CEOs are still crazy. More war. What happened? Where's all the change? There you go. All right. Nothing we could do there. Yeah, I do think, Ashura, I do think that in the next 5 years, the Russians not having Nord Stream 2 is going to significantly hurt them. To pretend that the Nord Stream 2 thing isn't a big deal is, I think, a little bit naive. I understand what's happening with Russia now, but I think in the long term that this kind of war is going to have a massively deleterious effect on their economy. And it's already put them in a sort of point of no return with a lot of Russian folks. Even if they get some of that business back, America is perpetually, at least for the next 40 years, has bitten out a major chunk of their business interest. So I do think that it's significant what's happening to their economy. No, Ashura, I don't believe that the ruble is the new American dollar. I don't believe that. And again, what I'm talking about is not what's in front of me. What I'm talking about is the next 5 years. Okay? In the next 5 years, I am certain that there are state accountants and all the rest of that factored in Nord Stream 2 as a done deal, because there was no way it wasn't going to be a done deal. The only thing that stopped Merkel from doing it initially was she was trying to balance ties with Trump, because Trump went over there and said, how are you going to give these guys Nord Stream 2 after we helped you with the Berlin Wall? So I think that they had flashed for Nord Stream 2. I think it was it's going to be a major boon for them, and then they're going to build things outside of that, on top of that. And now for that to be curtailed, I think is a significant blow to the Russians. Now, granted, I agree. Germany has already gotten, since this conflict started, Germany from Nord Stream 1 has bought a bunch of gas from Russia. So I'm not saying we've taken over the entire market, but we've bitten a sizable chunk out of it. 100%. 100% we've bitten a sizable chunk out of it, and I don't think they're going to get it back. So I do think that this entire conflict was terrible for the Russian people. It's not the backbreaker that the American government thought or designed it to be, but it is a bleeder, and they're going to feel the ramifications over the next 5 years for sure. Well, Howie, they don't need it to go on for 5 years. The damage has already been done. You know, in the next 3 years, we're set up to be the primary gas dealer to the Europeans. It was set up to be the Russians, but we took out a big chunk of that. So think about what that's going to do with their economy over a multitude of years. It's gonna put them way behind where they should have been, which is why Nord Stream 2 was such a big deal. Like, that's why our president went out of their way to really kill Nord Stream 2. Yeah, it's going to be a slow bleed, not a backbreaker. Correct. It's going to be, they're going to be slowly bled out. and they're going to always have to have some skirmish, and there's always going to be some sort of provocation. It'll be some sort of provocation. And I also agree. China and Saudis always make a deal with Russians. Yeah, but Amy, I think a lot of that, the integrity of those deals are going to be contingent on who is president in 2024. So if Trump gets in there, I think it's going to be a lot more difficult for the Saudis, particularly the Saudis and the Chinese, to work with Trump. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, exactly, Howie, exactly. They've been working on this for a while, correct? And that's why I said, like, even after this conflict is over, we're still going to do we're already talking about expanding NATO eastward still. We're still talking about it, like, to this day, and maybe we can get. I mean, it's insane. We've been doing this. We've had Russia in the crosshairs. We've had the Chinese in our crosshairs. They're next. There's going to be something. Watch the next 5 years, you'll see, and then it'll be China-phobia. And you watch how the world is going to turn against China. You watch. Unbelievable. Yeah, we're in very interesting times. Your guys' analysis is right. I'm not saying this is going to totally ruin Russia and then America is going to be set for life, but we definitely took a chunk out of their economy, and we definitely hurt them, and we're setting up for a polarization of the West versus Russia, China, and India, maybe. So there's that. Anytime you have blocks like that, you always have the potential for some serious conflict and some serious war. But here where we are, guys. Hey, at least we can say we don't live in boring times. I'm pleasantly surprised that the Croatian president said he'll block Nordic countries from joining NATO. Good. Praise God. Russia is selling India and China $100 barrels of oil for $35. They're losing a shitload of money. Artificially propping up the ruble will only last so long. It's not a slow bleed at all. It depends. A lot of this depends on what India decides to do. India says to Russia, "Look, we'll take the 35, but we're not going to 100." Then I agree with you. But if they can kind of negotiate and say, "Okay, let's go up to 80," then you would have a situation where you're slow bleeding out, right? So I agree with you. Like, this kind of a discount, like a 70%, what is that, 65% discount, is an unsustainable business model. Hopefully he's got, for the Russian people, they've got some sort of projection to account for this. But I don't think that Putin foresaw the severity and the rapid nature and the unanimous nature of the SWIFT stuff, all the rest of it. I don't even think they planned for that. But you're right. You're right, Alvin. I mean, it has the potential not to be a slow bleed. There's sort of a false propping up of this, which is why it is in Russia's best interest to end this war quickly, and our best interest to not end the war quickly. Right? That's what I'm saying. It's like it's in Russia and Ukraine's best interest that this war ends tomorrow. It is in our interest that the war continues for a year. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I'm saying. Like, this level of that's why I'm saying I'm blaming our government most of all, because you've got three major players in this, and only one of them benefits from the continuation of hostilities. And what I'm saying is, guys, how in the world can we justify this as Americans? How in the world can we say that we're the good guys when we've got a government that is consciously and actively working towards the destruction of another group of people solely so that we can maintain superiority in the region and the world? I just think it's absolutely horrible. Absolutely horrible. India bought 15 million barrels of oil last month alone. India and Russia will be more than happy to take full advantage of Russia. I think he's saying India and China, especially China. I would love Russia to be subservient to them. Why would you love the Russians being subservient to the Chinese? Why would that be a good thing? Wouldn't you want the Russians to have their own autonomy? Why would you be happy about Russians being subservient to anyone? I don't understand that. Like I would want the Russians to have their own autonomy, their own national autonomy. I would want the Chinese to have their own national autonomy. Why does there have to be a master-slave relationship in any of these countries? I think he's clarifying. I think he's saying he bets. Especially China, who would love to. Oh, okay. Yeah, I misquoted him. He didn't say I would love. He just said, especially China, who would love. Okay. I'm afraid of China way more than I am of Russia. Well, I'm not afraid of anybody, but I agree. Like, in context, yeah, the Chinese, they've got that 2049 plan, and it looks like they're maintaining a straight course, which is why something is going to happen in the next 5 years between the world and China to make China the horrible boogeyman and to isolate China from the world stage and all the rest of it. But we've got to degrade Russia first. We've got to make Russia a dry wasteland first so that the Chinese can't ally with them against us because they're not strong enough to take us on by themselves yet. So this very well could be just staging for us going after China as the big fish. I mean, you never know. But anyway, here we go. All right, guys, that's where we are. Shout out to Noam Chomsky. Shout out to everyone. Middle America's back, dear listener. Much love to all you beautiful people. In the meantime, love your neighbor. Take care of each other. Middle America, we are the media. Till next time, guys.